Hello, welcome to another Gundam version 2 video. That is the new suit, the Nightingale. And finally we have our second announced anniversary suit of the anniversary. First one being the High New and the second one here being the Nightingale. They're all part of the Beltorchica's children little kind of thing they're doing. Although we had the previous suits were MSV, CCA MSV suits, and I kind of hoping that maybe next week we'll get like the Psycho Dog or something, right? But anyway, yeah, the Nightingale here, and it's a very interesting kind of raid where first of all, if you haven't noticed, the suit is fucking massive, like really huge, and enough to where that might be pretty detrimental to the suit, you know. So a lot of people have been talking about that, and we're going to go over the suit and see if it really fucks over the suit. It does. So yeah, to help out with this, we do have 3 potential matches here, or potentially 3 matches. I do have 2 matches that are going to be in solo matches. The first one's going to be on Impact site by myself with a really good team. I really love the team that I had there. Made B-side worth playing. And then the second match is going to be on Arctic Base. Now, it's to kind of spoil that we do lose, but we do some pretty good damage for the Nightingale. You know, we don't get well, I don't want to say we don't get bullied, but there's certainly some aspects where like I wasn't getting clowned on as much as I trying to play the Nightingale, bro. Holy fuck, trying to play Nightingale during the so many Ashimars, so many nightmares of Ashimars stun locking me because of the stun accumulation of the suit. But yeah, so and the third potential match is I might be playing with Arm in a another Impact side match. I can't remember if it was Ace or not, but you'll have to see if there's gonna be one. But yeah, let's get right into the stats. As I mentioned, this is a 700 raid. You have 27 health with 20 ballistic resistance, 36 beam and melee resistance. You have 30 range strength, 40 melee strength, 145 movement speed with 235 boost speed, 90 thruster gauge, and 72 turning speed. So yeah, you have some pretty good resistances there, right? You have to keep in mind though, there might be some aspects of the suit that might not make it tanky, you know. You do have a lot of thruster gauge, 90 just right off the bat, and hey, decent turning speed. And for slots, you have 17 close, 18 mid, and another 17 long range slots, which is kind of weird because I feel like there's some other suits that have like a lot more going on for them slot wise. I think I remember some being like in the 20s, right? But some builds I did, I definitely first of all try to make use of the new melee part that they added, the new melee resistance part. That part is really gross. I'll have to make a video on its own, or talking about that on its own, but I tried it with the Nightingale. Really helps out for melee engagements, of course, especially against suits like the High New Gundam. You know, recently the High New Gundam with that amazing melee damage it does. Another build where I just went kind of just straight tanky. Forget the melee strength, just went for the beam and the melee resistance, and then, you know, anything else I had to buff up, I'll, you know, maybe some thruster gauge or maybe a little bit more melee or range strength. So yeah, I kind of did some more stuff like that. If you really want to, you can totally do just straight on melee. But yeah, I do recommend trying to buff up some of your resistances with this suit. Trust me. But yeah, there's some builds you can do, some kind of typical like raid builds, right? You can do some melee, you can do some tankiness, right? So yeah, that's pretty nice. And now we're on to your weapons. Starting off the primary weapons, you have the Nightingale Large MBR, which I believe stands for Mega Beam Rifle, and that is 350 damage per shot, which it is like a shotgun weapon, right? With 80% heat rate and 175 range, and you can charge it, of course. And technically, to spoil a skill that you have what is called the Release Range Limiter, where before we get to that, let's talk about the weapon itself first, where the other 2 forms, where normally uncharged shots, you got a shotgun blast. It's very similar to the Sazabi and the FF Sazabi. It has very high stun accumulation. It almost feels like an instant stun, really. You can just shoot somebody. If you're at close range, it's almost a guaranteed stun. There's parts in these matches where I just kind of just use it casually, like, okay, yeah, I know I'm going to get a stun after this. I know I'm going to get one, so I'm going to melee afterwards. And of course, like I said, you can charge up. You can charge it up to get a normal stagger if you want to. It does more damage, right? It's not just a shotgun damage, right? And if you do charge it up fully all the way, you know, if you go for that release range limiter, right? you will get a heavy stagger. But it's not just a heavy stagger, you get a blast radius with this heavy stagger, which makes it pretty easy to hit enemies, right? So you have to be really careful if you plan on shooting this around corners or near teammates, because the blast radius will heavy stagger them, or take them out of maneuver armor if they're trying to get away from somebody, right? But that is really effective for forcing somebody to stop, because it's a heavy stagger. Even if they have maneuver armor or whatnot, that they'll make them they'll normally get stunned, right, instead of a heavy stagger. And if they're not maneuver armoring around or whatever, they will just get up straight up heavy stagger, which will allow you to get into your melee combos or whatever else you want to do. Or if your teammates are nearby, they can fire at the enemy, right? So yeah, very versatile weapon. Now, the one thing I kind of wish it did, where I wish I could choose if I want to charge up to my heavy stagger. I kind of want to hold on to just having a normal stun, but at the same time, the shotgun does have a very reliable stun accumulation, to where if I really want to stun, I can probably just use the shotgun by itself. If I want a long range stun, I can quickly charge it up to get that single stun in, and if of course, like I said, you can go for that heavy stagger when you need it. So yeah, not too much of a worry, but I kind of wish I can kind of control when I want that release limiter charge to come in. But yeah, so it's a pretty nice weapon. And now for the primary melee weapon, you have the Nightingale Beam Tomahawk, which is 3,000 damage, and this is a pretty good melee weapon. Now, I mistakenly said that the downswing, I believe in the testing video, I said it's something like the Stamen's downswing. I am wrong, where that actually just has straight up just the O's melee moveset, with the neutral being the poke and the downswing being the O's downswing. Yeah, by the way, the neutral is gross on this. The Beam Tomahawk has a lot of range, or at least it's a big weapon, right? So the poke will just catch people by surprise, or you can even incorporate it if you just hitting people. You can see in some of these combos I'm doing where I can just throw in a neutral and it will just hit. And it's really helpful, especially against some of the bigger units, where I just can slide in, get a poke, and then go straight into my downswing or whatnot. So really great neutral swing. The downswing, like I said, is the O's downswing. It's a bit of a sliding downswing. Will get you some decent damage out of that. So yeah, not a bad starting off melee weapon here. So yeah, I really like this melee weapon. I really like it. And now we're on to the secondary weapons. Starting off here, you have the chest Vulcan gun, which is 95 damage per shot with 80 rounds. You shoot 2 at a time, and it does have 250 range, and it's actually a really good stun accumulation weapon. I believe it will stun in 26 hits with you having 80 rounds. Yeah, you can boost while using this. You can just quickly build up a stun just with the Vulcans, which of course you definitely want to combine this with if you're charging towards somebody, you can use your other stun accumulation weapons like your funnels, or at least one of your funnels, to help you get a stun that way. And yeah, they do hit a pretty good range, a 250 range. Definitely, again, it's a really nice build up damage, really nice. I think I use it to finish off a few enemies. From a distance, if I don't want to go in with one of my teammates there, and the enemy's low on health, I can throw that out. Again, really fast in accumulation. It's a pretty nice weapon. Pretty good for Vulcans. And of course, since they are Vulcans, you can use these for typical Vulcan actions, like taking out pilots and whatnot. So yeah, nice. Next secondary weapon is the Nightingale Beam Saber ×4, which is 3,100 damage, and this is literally just has the O's moveset for the the hidden arms part of the O, also the ×4 Beam Saber. Yeah, the neutral swing's the same, side swing's the same, down swing's the same. It's all just the same. But that does mean you do have a lot of reach with this. You'll be seeing me go for the downswing a lot. You'll be seeing me go for the side swings. Just like with the regular O has really nasty combos involving going from neutral into your Beam Saber side swings. This suit does have, again, the same setup going on for it. Now, I don't know if the modifier is exactly the same, but it does do insane damage to supports. Of course, the downswing, like I said, does have plenty of reach, has plenty of upward reach as well. I think in the Arctic base match, I accidentally hit another Nightingale, an ace Nightingale that was flying overhead of me. So that was kind of funny to watch happen, but yeah, again, the second melee weapon here, really nice to combo into with your Beam Tomahawk. Especially like we mentioned, the Beam Tomahawk has that really gross neutral swing, the poke going straight into this weapon. Yeah, mwah, very beautiful. So, yeah, next weapon here is the Chest L Mega Particle Cannon, which is 4,000, Jesus Christ, 4,000 damage with 95% heat rate, and it is 400 range, and yeah, this is a instant stunning weapon. However, you do have to stop to fire it. This makes it pretty risky to use around people that know what they're doing, where like if you want to use it, try and poke at somebody, there's a potential they can just shoot you back. You don't really have much in terms of defense everywhere on your body except for your shoulders. So be really careful when you want to step out to use this weapon. But of course, since if you're going to use it for a stun lock, that's pretty effective. Where you can use your let's say your beam rifle into the Mega Particle Cannon. Yeah, that'll definitely work. Now I should be using it a lot more. Unfortunately, I didn't really get a chance to use it too much. I do kind of feel like leaves a little bit too open with the stop to fire, in my opinion. Especially at 700, and especially when you consider the other Char alternatives with the Sazabi and the FF Sazabi, where their chest Mega Particle Cannons, they can boost while using those. And I feel like this suit, which we'll get into later on when we talk about the skills and some of the negatives about this suit, I feel like with the way this suit is, it's kind of weird the suit doesn't have the ability to boost and use the Mega Particle Cannons. Very strange idea, especially, again, with how this suit is, it being massive and not having any real defenses when it's not boosting. But, yeah, if you can hit your shots, again, it will do some pretty good damage. Good for stun locks and all that. Next weapon is the Funnel ×6 Focused Fire, which is 250 damage, 100% heat rate, and 350 range. And yeah, these are lock-on funnels. You send them out. They're pretty good range. You have 350 range. And yeah, they'll rapid fire on somebody. Now, it doesn't stun by itself, though. You will have to go for another stun accumulation weapon, like for your shotgun or your, as I mentioned before, the chest Vulcan gun. Since you can use these Vulcans while boosting, like most other 4-star almost said 4-star supports, like most other 4-star units, right? You can definitely, without having to stop, you can boost, use the funnels, and then continue boosting to use your chest Vulcans. So yeah, pretty good stun accumulation there. Really great, actually. And then you go straight into your melee. So yeah, nice setup here. And now the next funnel weapon here, the Funnel ×4 Stationary, which is 200 damage per shot with 100% heat rate and 150 range. Oh, I forgot to mention, yeah, the regular funnels, you have to be careful when you want to use them because they will overheat. And now these funnels, the auto funnels, these fucking suck. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. These funnels fucking suck. So at first I thought the appeal for this weapon, it seemed like the appeal was going to be you can kind of use it as like a trapping tool. Almost sort of kind of like the Dagdol's leaders, where it'll either do some really good stun accumulation or just something to where if it's staying in one area, people will have to watch out for it. Now, obviously, it doesn't do a ton of damage. Now, if you're focusing on one target, it actually can build up quite nicely. Obviously, there's not going to be too many instances where there's going to be you just fighting one person, but that can work. But yeah, these things literally have no stun accumulation. They do low damage with a slow rate of fire, and if you're trying to use them to send them out like a far distance, just to try to poke at people, it doesn't go that far. Now, I theorize this is because they want you to use this in space, or, they want you to, if you ever play the Dag doll in space, if you use your Dag leaders, if you whiff hitting somebody, aiming at somebody, your Dag leaders will just go way far off and just tase a random building, right? I think they wanted to avoid that with a Nightingale, so they made it to where the funnels, they'll go a little bit ahead of you and they'll stay there. I wish it had a little bit more range, so that way I can kind of do some more aerial kind of supremacy moments where, like, oh hey, teammate needs help here. Here's some funnels over here, and okay, I'm gonna go join my teammate over here and use my own funnels over there, right? Or the lock-on funnels, which, hey, you can use both the auto funnels and the lock-on funnels one after another, which is nice, kind of like with the MP Cubile, and you can definitely use those both together to kind of increase your damage output, which is pretty nice. There are there's some, if you just want to get some damage, it's there, right? But that's really all it is. It's just there. Honestly, these are really, why are these on this suit? I'd rather just have something like the rear funnels where, I'll get one shot from them that'll do like a lot of stun accumulation, or just something else. I feel like these should really be buffed to at least have at least some stun accumulation. These literally have none, so you can't even use these to kind of like poke at people to get a chance for stun accumulation. Really, they're terrible, really terrible. Wish these were buffed. But now they're out of that trash fire. We have the shield, which the Nightingale shield. It is 10,000 health and is considered a large size shield. And sometimes it feels like it's not there just because of the sheer size of the Nightingale. It kind of reminds me, kind of like the Gelgu Vertex. It has that tiny shield on its arm, and sometimes you'll forget that you even have a shield, and then you'll get saved randomly by it, right? That's kind of what it feels like on the Nightingale. It does have 10k health, so that it does last a while, which is pretty nice. Unless you get a heavy attack by an EZZ, but But alright, that is it for the weapons on the Nightingale, and now we're on to the skills. Starting off, you have Assault Booster level 3, you have Ambac level 2, Maneuver Armor level 4, which if you're boosting, you will take 30% less damage. You have Thruster Control, Melee Composite level 2, which I believe that is essentially just gives you balancers and melee combo controller level 2. I think there might be something there akin to offense system, something to do with you meleeing, unless I read it wrong, because it is kind of awkward to read. You do have Power Accelerator level 2. That means if you clash with an enemy, you can boost out of that clash. And since it's level 2, that means if you bounce, you'll be able to clash. I'll be using that. I think I used that a couple of times in these matches, which is kind of pretty crazy for something that big like the Nightingale, where you just clash with some dude, and then all of a sudden he's just moving forward again. The big-ass Nightingale. Kind of looks terrifying, right? Next, you have Flat Booster level 2, so that is kind of like what the other suits have, flat boosters, except this one's level 2. You'll take less thruster consumption, and how that works is if you hold the jump button while you're boosting, you'll start flying in the air. And it will take your thruster consumption, but like I said, level 2, it will take less thruster consumption than the level 1 flat boosters. And yeah, it's really funny just to watch this thing fly in the sky. Kind of like with the Xeku Zwei, it's just so ridiculous looking. But at least I can believe this suit flying over the Xeku Zwei, right? That suit just looks like it just cannot, right? At least the Nightingale has a bunch of thrusters on it. But carrying on, we have the Enhanced Tackle level 6, which I think is plus 300% damage on your tackles. Against some supports, I think that will be like over 3,000 damage. So if somebody's really low in health and you already used your melee attacks, you can definitely use that to finish off enemies. So that's nice, I guess. You have Blast Stabilizer, so mobile suit explosions do not affect you. They do not heavy stagger you when you're near them, which thank God. It'd be really awful if the Nightingale didn't have blast stabilizers. Imagine just being just that big of a suit and just people exploding around you. You'd be constantly getting heavy staggered. You do have a double dodge roll. Have evasion level 2. You do a dodge roll. You have enough room to do another boost or do another dodge roll. You have enhanced. Oh, my bad. You have counter boost, which I believe was on the new Gundam FF or the FF new, where if you get a counter, you will get a boost to your stats. You'll get more attack. You'll get more defense. I don't want to say you get plus 20% more attack, plus 20% more defense. You gain a little bit more speed, and I believe this will last for 30 seconds. Now, this does require you to get a counter, though, so it's very situational. But it does lend to you having some pretty powerful capabilities for damage output and all that. Kind of like with the new Gundam FF. Oh, I should also mention that also decreases your any suit that has a charge time. So that means your beam rifle, it's really, it can go to the regular stun faster, and it'll go to the heavy stagger faster as well. So yeah, pretty nice skill. Again, very situational though, so it's not like the best thing ever. You have back add-on buffer level 3, which should be 30% off less damage when you get hit in the back. I'm assuming that's where your dumpy is, unless it actually just means your backpack, which dear God, I hope it means your ass. Because, god damn, that would be even sadder for this suit when we talk about it further. You do have Psycho Frame level 2. You do have counter program, so you have 50% health. You'll get a different counter with more damage. Oh, I forgot to mention Psycho Frame. You do have, whenever you reach a certain amount of health, you will get a bonus to, again, with your attack, your defense. Actually, no, I believe it's just your defense and mobility. And I believe your funnels will lock on faster. You have release range limiter, which, as we mentioned before, that was on your, we talked about on the beam rifle. That's what gives you your heavy stagger blast radius. And finally, you have vernier binder defense, which is like the only defense you have when you're not boosting. And unfortunately, it is only on your shoulders. And what that does is it prevents stun accumulation on your shoulders, and you will take less damage when hit in the shoulders. Now, this is really nice when you're hiding behind, small buildings and all that, because obviously if you're taking cover, those shoulders poke out quite a bit. So I do like that they made it to where, it doesn't fuck you over too much. However, that is the only sort of defense you have on this suit when you're not boosting, which will lead into our pros and cons now for the Nightingale. And starting off with the cons, it should be pretty obvious. This suit is just big. And I'm not talking just big. I mean detrimental to you and your team big. I levied the same issue towards the Xeku Zwei. However, the Xeku Zwei does have plenty of stuff to help it not get stunned as easily as the Nightingale, which that is a 650 suit. You would think that the devs would think about how this is a raid at 700. How, it might be an issue fighting against certain suits, that maybe they need to give this something similar to Xeku Zwei. No, they didn't. First of all, you have no damage control. So if you're boosting using your maneuver armor level 4, sure, you'll take less damage, but you get stunned very, very easily from people shooting at you, especially with how big you are. If you are standing still, we mentioned that you have the vernier binder defense. I'm going to be honest with you. I think that has only helped me once or twice in a match when I'm poking around a corner. I had to make sure, my torso is protected and all that. But people, if you're in a straight up just fight, right? People they're not going to aim for that. They're going to aim for the rest of your fucking body. So it's not going to be useful for those kind of situations. And that is your only kind of defense where, if you're standing still or not standing still when you're not currently boosting, right? And to make matters worse, you have a weapon with the chest L mega particle cannon that we talked about before, where it stopped the fire. That's a very risky move to do in front of people, especially at a cost of 700, multiple staggers. It's really weird that they designed the suit this way when they recognize that having a massive suit like this is going to be an issue with the Xeku Zwei. And that's not even on top of the issue that you're a raid, so you'll take more damage from generals, which are going to be the majority of the suits that you'll be encountering. They didn't think about this at all, it seems like. That is a huge, huge issue to where, again, like I said with the Xeku Zwei, it's a detrimental to you and your teammates where there's going to be times when you're big enough to where it might fuck your camera up, or there'll be times when you're trying to go in for a melee, but because you're so big, you might accidentally hit your teammates, or even worse, your teammates might accidentally hit you. There's been plenty of times where we're in the middle of a firefight where I have to get out of the way, or say firefight, I mean technically a firefight as well, like in melee engagements where I have to get out of dodge because my teammates are going into melee. I know I'm close enough to the enemy team where I'm just going to get hit, right? So, this side, again, like I said, detrimental to you and your teammates. This is probably the biggest downside to this suit, along with not having proper defenses for this size. I kind of combined those two cons together, but you can kind of separate them out to where, big size, really big size, and the lack of defense parts or defense skills, right? I honestly think they should really give this thing at least damage control, or even worse, this thing doesn't have any buffers besides on the backside. That's another thing they don't have. That's another downside is you don't have any buffers. So I mentioned earlier that you do have what seems like a pretty tanky build, and you can definitely do a tanky build. There's moments where it just feels like you're just getting absolutely melted. You're not as tanky as you think you are. So it's like, what did they not? Again, did they learn from the Xeku Zwei or not? They clearly knew that something was going to be up with it, with having that big of a suit, and they just didn't carry that over. Really, really big mistake, you know. So yeah, those are really, really bad cons for this suit. That will make or break this suit for a lot of people, and I mean that sincerely. And for any other cons, the funnels, the auto funnels, those just suck. I wish they had more stun accumulation or more range or more just literally they can do anything with that, faster firing rate, something to make that just a better weapon. It's there just for me, just if I want to add some extra damage in. That's pretty much it. It's not even like a whole lot of damage, right? Unless I'm fighting one person, which that doesn't happen too often. I think that might be it for the cons. So now over to the pros. Starting off, you do have really great weapons besides the auto funnels. You have really great stun accumulation weapons. You have really great, just a nice versatility with the beam rifle. Your melee weapons are just fantastic. I love the melee on this suit. I like the kind of general gameplay like I think they're trying to go for with this. It reminds me a lot of it's very familiar with a lot of other 700 suits where you can have that basic just kind of, I can use these weapons while boosting to get a stun, go into melee. It has a very nice, solid gameplay going on for it, or at least would be solid if you're not getting attacked too much. Now, fortunately, I believe in that first match I'll be in this video, right? You'll definitely see what happens when you're not targeted too much, where you can kind of work with the team a lot, right? And the second match, you definitely see the output of the suit. It's not bad, right? The weapons aren't bad, except for the auto funnels. Another pro is your some of your skills. You have maneuver armor level 4. You have the melee composite ability, which it grants you the ability to use melee combat controller and balancers as well. Which honestly, I don't know why that's kind of a skill, but you have Power Accelerator level 2, so if you clash with people, you can continue your aggression after bouncing. It feels pretty nice. You do have the flat booster to fly as well. Enhanced tackle, fuck it, just enhanced tackle. It'd be funny if they gave the shield tackle to do even more damage, right? So you have some nice skills. The Psycho Frame level 2. You have the counter boost. I do like the idea with the Vernier Binder defense. It really helps out when you are hiding around corners. Like I said, because of how big your shoulders stick out, it's really nice to have the ability to not take as much damage and not get fucked over from stun accumulation, because you don't gain any stun accumulation at all when you get hit in the shoulders. At least if I read that right, and it feels like it. So yeah, and I think anything else. I think that might be it for now. So this is going to be the end of this video. If you guys enjoyed this video, leave a like. Subscribe if you want. I'd really appreciate it. Type up in the comment section how you feel about the Nightingale. Do you like it? Do you hate it? There's some gameplay aspects I really like about this suit, but I just cannot recommend people get this at the moment unless they're going to save up, unless they want to get it for when it gets buffed, because I can easily see this thing getting a buff later on. It's just way too easy to bully currently as it is. No damage control, no buffers. It's just really easy to lock down and just kill. There has been a lot of matches where we've been fighting Ashimars, or there's Ashimars on our team, where the Ashimar can just 2-tap the Nightingale and just whip its ass. And not only that, like there's other suits like they recently added the level 4 Girazulu for this update. The Girazulu level 4 that counters it with the stun accumulation. The Rick Dejay, the Dejay, I guess you can say the Rick Dejay as well. Modified Rick Dejay. Is there 700 modified Rick Dejay? Either way, Dejay with the Shrapnel Bazooka, the Ifrit Schneed, right? Plenty of these other suits that will just annihilate the Nightingale normally, where they can just, again, get those stun accumulations, get in and just melee the poor Nightingale. It's not very pretty. So yeah, I can definitely see this thing getting buffed, and it's a bit of a shame, Again, like I mentioned earlier, it feels like they didn't learn anything from how they handled the Xeku Zwei and incorporating it into the Nightingale. So hopefully they'll learn that whenever they buff it. So yeah, for recommendations, I only recommend it if you're a experienced enough raid player that wants to have like a kind of an interesting suit, because it does have, again, it has some really nice weapons on it. And if you do allow this to work, it does put in work. But if you have a really competent team, they'll just annihilate this thing super, super easily. And other recommendations, if you just really like the Nightingale, then I guess sure, roll for this. But or if you want to get this and wait for the buff. Overall, it's just going to be a really hard raid to play consistently, right? So if you have a Stein, you can continue playing your Stein or whatnot, or you can put the new parts on the on suits like the Haikushiki, and have fun with that. I actually want to try that whenever the beam part comes in, so I can have my my Haikushiki with 70 beam resistance, and then have like max melee as well. So, but yeah, that'll be it, and I will see you guys later. Bye.